Welcome to the Wings Event Center in Kalamazoo, Michigan. They call it the Zoo, home of the Kalamazoo Curling Club. 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. 16 teams competing for the right to represent the United States. The 2023 Mixed Doubles World Championships in Gangneung, South Korea. Back in the booth with me this afternoon, Vince Skebby. Vince, good to have you here again.
Thanks for having me again, Tyler. Always nice to be back.
Looking at our standings here from Pool 1 after this morning's games, Persinger Plies locks up the number 1 seed and the bye for the playoffs, the 6-0 record. Geving, Schuster, and Hamilton both with wins, now sitting in second and third in playoff position. Moores, Wheeler, Rhyme-Smith still in contention at 3-3 each. Burr, Fountain Cott, Rohrbacher, Skebby at the bottom will not be available for the playoffs. And now in Pool B for these games this afternoon, TC and Dropkin 5-0, Strauss Casper 4-1, Anderson, Stapera, Nickel tied for that third playoff spot at 3-2. Anderson, Richardson still alive at 2-3, Bookout, Wiesa, Mulaney, Sinnott, and Poto Perry at 1-4. Our feature matchup today, the Nickel squad at 3-2, very much in playoff contention against Taylor Anderson, Ben Richardson at 2-3 and fighting for their playoff lives.
Should be a good game. Both teams going to be fighting for their lives here. I'm excited to watch this one.
Yeah, we haven't had a feature game with the Nickels as of yet, so looking forward to watching these two play, not just in the peripheral and focused on this matchup. We did have Taylor Anderson and Ben Richardson earlier in the week. But yes, with a above 500 record after 5 games, the Nickels very much in contention to try to make this final 6, this semifinal spot.
It's really their destiny at 3-2. So it'll be fun to see how they play this out.
A tightly packed field. Things did separate a little bit after last night's draws. For this pool, at the top of the 12-foot, Richardson now calling for the outturn draw around both of those now guards, with that rock being the top 12, essentially a guard. Taylor Anderson throwing the outturn draw. Vince at 2-3. I can attest that losing record after 5 games, not necessarily knocking you out of contention. Seems like Team Schuster, we always end up in 2-3, and decided it was time to start the tournament. So we'll see if Ben and Taylor can follow that, get themselves into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think as long as they keep themselves loose, they don't overthink it. You're playing 2-3, your back's against the wall. Your margin of error gets tighter and tighter with each shot. So if they can just stay loose and remember what got them those 2 wins and what worked, I think they'll be in a good spot to get themselves back in this thing.
A lot of teams thrive under those conditions, where when they need to get a win or they do have their backs up against the wall, it's when they're at their best. And see if these 2 teams can follow that path. Gabe Nickel now, again, as we mentioned earlier in the week, he's on the all-hair team for this tournament. Easy to spot Gabe across the sheet. Does a little curl, ticks the guard, and rolls to the top of the 12-foot.
Who else makes the all-hair team?
Going through the rosters now, too, not just looking at the players that are out on the ice. Probably still have to have Matt Hamilton in that group for that flow. It's good variety, too. It's a complete opposite Gabe Nichols' hair.
I feel like it's got to be Gabe and Casper.
I think Chase Sinnott would be right up there, too. I'm not sure if Chase got a haircut in the middle of the tournament or not. It doesn't look like it has the same power as it did.
Didn't have time.
Well, I think normally that's the look, is that I didn't. Now it's I prefer the other way personally.
Still there for Lee.
Got a needle there. Shot by Ben.
right through the hole with that outturn for Richardson and Anderson. Looking sharp early. Sitting 3. They do have hammer as well, so time for a little damage control possibly for the Nichols.
You like this one though?
It's kind of the risk reward with that first shot. Top 12. You can't sneak another one in before the other team. You end up chasing without hammer. It can get dicey if you can't get yourself out of it.
Those not familiar with this squad, Kirstin and Gabe. See them a lot around Minnesota. Always pleasant to be around. Always an interesting conversation with Gabe. I like that. Love to see these guys do well, and always fun to see fresh faces at these events. Best thing that can happen, especially here in the United States, is that we have more of these teams competing at top levels. That shot lays out right through the board somehow. Barely looked like it was a rock wide at that angle, but an inch away from making the raise double. Instead, right between sitting 1 and mostly protected. So pretty good result overall.
Completely changes how this end was looking with that shot. That was fantastic.
And we can't say it enough in mixed doubles that it only takes 1 shot or even 1/2 shot to completely change the trajectory of what's happening in these hands. That one from Gabe definitely turned things around. So it looks like a outturn angle slash for Ben Richardson. Try to sit at least 2. These are the ones, Vince, that are always thinner than you think too.
Yeah. Catch it thin enough that you can hit it. You always want to make sure you stick around. You have to navigate in front. So, yeah, it's always thinner than what you think. You don't have to throw a ton of weight at this. These rocks are getting a fair amount of bounce on them. It's a good heat touch. Crazy.
Oh, normal pass here from Richardson. Over curls just a touch. Ends up rolling out with both. So again, needed to be a little thinner in order to stick that.
Most importantly, objective 1. You got rid of the red that was shot.
Yeah, even from the booth here, Gabe, we can tell you that rock is definitely out.
Can confirm.
Looking like a short run in for Nickel on this intern side. Another one that you don't have to overthrow, but like to keep both in if you can. Just playing normal. I like that weight for this. I think that's about the max weight I would throw.
I wouldn't throw anything more than normal. Usually on shots
Gabe
like
with
this.
a little outward momentum on that release, looked like. May need to curl.
Try and carve it back.
Definitely curled plenty. Actually rolls out. So maybe slid a little on the tight side and worked it back out to it.
See that common with more of his outturns than his interns, I've noticed this week. I'm just playing against him a few times.
So that's the insider info we need. Not having had them on a feature game and really not seeing them play very much at all up to this point. So all the information we can get from those in the know, like Vince here, definitely help us out. So Ben Richardson now throwing the outturn draw, trying to get what would in regular curling be a skip's deuce, but with 2 different people. And throwing his last of this first end.
It's looking a little heavy from up here in the booth, but not too bad as it's slowing down here.
It needs to curl up to bury. It's really starting to climb now.
Yeah.
Should at least bury a piece. Yeah, it looked like the weight was about right because it started that curl right where we've been talking about just before the Columbia logo. So
yes,
that's what we've been looking for the proper weight on this ice. So right to the top of the forefoot, but just a little more line than they would have liked.
A little bit, but I'm sure the thought is you don't want to be narrow on that because crashing into the guard does you nothing and maybe makes the Anderson shot a lot harder. So.
can see a good piece of this Yellowstone playing the out-turn pass. Very close to the guard here. Need the sweep to get by. Oh, just barely goes by, got off it just for a second. Might have thought that the weight was a little bit more than it was, because definitely didn't need to get close to the guard to make that shot.
Yeah, especially with how this ice has been this week. If you get off it at the wrong time, it will start to move right away. So, sometimes it's even better just to stay on it and just lightly brush it. Just keep it clean until you really got to let off it.
So basically a free draw for a second point for Taylor Anderson, needing full 12 foot for that second point. And Richardson leaning on this one pretty good. Doesn't look like it's going to be too big of an issue.
Looks like it should be just right.
We'll go right to the top of the fours, up to their own stone. So it is a 2 on the last 2 stones for Anderson and Richardson. They lead the Nichols 2-0 after 1 end of play. Second end of action, our feature matchup in this draw number 6 for Pool B. Anderson Richardson leading Nickel 2-0. 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Tyler George and Vince Skebby. With the start of the second end, I'd like to ask you all, is your curling club website clunky and unworkable? Are you tired of your club relying on social media because your website just does not work for your members? Finally, the curling management software your club has been waiting for is here. Check out Warm Room Hero at curling.club today. See Wayne Anderson pacing around behind the sheet, trying to stay warm. Usually not too many nerves with Wayne. I've watched him watch his daughters many times.
I've never seen him react once.
Yeah, I think for Wayne, it's one of those things where he keeps it bottled up inside and it comes out at the end.
I don't know if I was a player, if I'd want that from a coach or not. Maybe somewhere between him and Bobby Knight would be the ideal coaching emotion level.
That is both ends of the spectrum. There we see Kirstin Nickel and Gabe Nickel. Gabe with that aforementioned hair that we talked about. Good draw from Taylor Anderson to start this second end, right to the lid.
Right where you want it. Right where you want it, especially when you get that 2. You feel it, you get the top 4 on your skip stone, and you get to come back and cover the pin. Can't ask for a better spot.
This one gliding a little bit on Kirstin Nickel. Bounces off just a little bit and spills to the back of the 4-foot. There is Team Anderson Richardson with Taylor Anderson and Ben Richardson. They are coached by the Wayne Anderson. Wayne with probably a little less stressful day now, not having to watch his daughters play against each other. Taylor did even up the matchup between Sarah and Taylor after, I should say Sarah evened things up. Taylor got the win earlier in the season, and Sarah gets the win here at Mixed Doubles Nationals. Both of them, I'm sure, would love to have a rubber match, which would mean they would both be in the playoffs.
That one will mean more. That'll be a good one. If that's what happens, it'll be a good one.
That one nestles into the button. Corner frozen on their own stone, sitting 2. Gabe Nickel playing the out-turn bump, coming around, trying to jostle those stones just a little bit, create a pocket.
When you have Hammer here, you want a little bit of separation, but he's hanging back. I don't know if he's a fan of where this weight is.
Yeah, he didn't like that one out of his hand. Thought maybe got a little bit wide, a little bit heavy, and that's how it's looking right now. Not sure he's going to make contact with anything but their own. And does just nose their own out. That ended up being almost hack weight. I don't know that that was quite the weight that he wanted to play.
Might have kicked out just a smidge too hard there, figuring you get that separation. But when you're trying to throw a little bit heavier of a draw or hack, that line is so important. And I think we noticed this the first day. When you're throwing anything a heavy draw or space, hack, rock's going to run pretty straight.
And that's been pretty consistent throughout the week. I think it was exaggerated a little bit for the first few draws that it was extremely weight sensitive, but still rewarding good throws, good draw weight, and punishing overthrows especially.
Absolutely. And in doubles, it's even harder because you're only throwing to one sweeper, or sometimes you're your own sweeper. So unlike in fours where you can throw and you've got two sweepers right there to get on it right away. So you can have a tendency of maybe overcompensating for that in doubles.
Scores on other sheets. Some pretty good action on a few of the games. Anderson to Stapera with a single. Go up 1-0 on Bookout and Wiesa. Mulaney Sinnott up 2-0 on Strauss and Casper. A couple of
Steal it too.
Teammates playing against each other in that one. Another grudge match. TC Dropkin taking 3 on Podol and Perry to go up 3-0. And run back by Nickel ends up just hitting their own stone. All 3 still in play for Anderson and Richardson. Ben Richardson correctly pointing out that there is a triple for Nickel and Nickel if they do not guard this up. So this will just be a fairly tight center guard.
Yeah, I like this call, and it's kind of the fortunate miss from Gabe there. Even though he didn't get the run back, opening it up isn't necessarily in a textbook. That's not really what you want to do. But since they have Hammer opening it up, not necessarily a bad thing. And if you can avoid jamming into your red in the back, if this triple is there, you're in a really good spot to take some of the pressure off you.
Then calling halfway on this guard, so line should be pretty close if that's the weight. Should finish hard at the end now.
There it goes.
And very well placed by Ben. More throw for Gabe Nickel. I think they're probably going to run again. There's not a real great angle to play anything into the house.
Just throw this. If you run it back, great. If you peel it, that's fine. You're forcing them to throw something else and deal with the fact that you can throw and make this triple if it's there.
Nickel playing the out-turn run back on this center guard. This one looks like it's fading back a little as well. Just does make the peel. Gabe looking a little frustrated with himself right now.
It kind of looks like he sometimes slides a little narrow and then really exaggerates that release on the out turn more than anything. You know, that's exactly what we saw there, and that's why that really hung out there.
Had a couple of those so far in this game on that out turn, Vince, so definitely correct on that so far. Now with the way the rocks are set up, really guard all that's necessary for Taylor Anderson.
I like the guard. Put it back with Ben through there and make him look at 3.
basically all you'll have. Here we see Wayne with the eagle eye view. All they'll have on the last, if this guard is placed correctly, is a little bump on the back Yellowstone on the button to try to give up one. Richardson thinks this is a little tight on line, so they're just calling over and off. Need this rock to stop. Definitely over curling.
So you might just get halfway on the center line if it stays. Higher is better when it's going to over curl like that. Cover more ground.
That's just good enough that they're going to force that bump that we talked about. See almost 3/4 of that back stone. They need the shooter to stick around after the bump too. Trying to hold their opponents to a single if possible. Very important shot early in the game, Vince.
Yeah, putting the pressure on him. This has been really just Richardson. This is really the second end where it's really going. And for this shot that they got to throw here, you don't really need more than back four. You want to stick around and just move it away.
Final stone of this second end. Kirstin Nickel looking to come up with a big shot to hold Anderson and Richardson to 1 point.
It's moving a little earlier than the Columbia logo on this. This is cutting really hard.
This is turning over. Looks like it's on the rock in the top eights. Just need to spill in maybe to still cut them to 2, but will not. And that is a steal of 3 points for Anderson and Richardson. After 2 ends of play, they lead Nickel and Nickel 5-0. Third end of play, 2023 USA Curling Mixed National Championships, Mixed Doubles National Championships. 5-0 lead for Anderson and Richardson over Nickel and Nickel. Definitely need to get a crooked number on the board sometime soon for Gabe and Kirstin. Get back in this game. It is mixed doubles with a ton of rocks in play.
Yeah, no
get back in these games quick.
Right, no lead is safe in mixed doubles. So all it takes is one or two shots can change this outcome. You just have to keep playing your game and keep your head down. Five is nothing, especially through 2. That's something you can come back from.
Taylor Anderson's first. He's made a couple good ones to start these ends off so far, and that's made a big difference in how these ends have developed. One team chasing, one team ahead.
Yeah, it really comes down to your first shots from each player. You make them both. And that goes for both teams.
That one ends up short, so door open now for Nickel and Nickel, maybe to wrap something around there and set up an end and have their opponents chasing for the first time in this game. We'll see what Kirstin Nickel can do. Vince, for the first time this week, got to start off my day the way I probably should have been doing all along, with a cup of Tim Hortons coffee. Still in this mug over here. And for everyone, you can wake up to freshness with Tim's 2 for $6 breakfast sandwiches featuring cracked eggs. That I need to do at some point this week, too. Pair with the new vanilla-flavored cream cold brew with chocolate cold foam, or a vanilla-flavored latte with chocolate syrup, or if you're like me, black coffee. Thank you to our local sponsor, Tim Hortons, located at 5709 West Nidge Avenue near I-94 in Portage. That's 5709 West Nidge Avenue near I-94 in Portage. Thanks again.
As a
I have that
resident
coffee.
Cleveland?
Yeah, I have that coffee in front of me. And for the first time this week, or second time this week, little Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar to go along with it, too.
There you go. As a resident Clevelander, I got to say, we don't have Tim Hortons in Cleveland. So anytime it's around, I'll stop and get it. It's a big shame. Really need it.
They're obviously all over Canada, where we've stopped countless times while we're on the road for tournaments up there. Now they're creeping in on us. These Canadians, right under our noses, infiltrating with these franchises. So when I'll be really worried is when a keg opens up in my neighborhood. Once the keg shows up, that's it. Now we know they're officially planning their invasion. And
South Park called it.
Yeah, being in northern Minnesota, I mean, I'm a couple hours from the border. We'll be some of the first cities to go if indeed they do invade. So I got my eyes open northward all the time. You're not fooling me any, Canada. The out-turn tap on the way for Gabe Nickel.
Trying to carve it in there, knife it.
Perfect line.
Well done.
That's a great shot from Gabe. Little broom twirl there, too. Getting the energy going. That's what we want to see.
We'll get it back.
2 games with a 5-0 score right now is the undefeated rink of TC and Dropkin continues to roll. Steal at 2 in the second, leading Podol and Perry 5-0. Anderson, Stapera, Bookout, Wiesa tied at 1 after a single for Bookout and Wiesa in the second. And Strauss and Casper getting the 2 back on sheet D to tie up their match with Mulaney and Sinnott. Again, big grudge match there with all teammates for men's and women's. All 4 players competed in the national championship game out in Denver a couple of weeks ago.
Future is absolutely bright for USA curling when you see those two, when you see these 4 and their teams go. But in our feature game, hey, can't forget Ben Richardson is on that rink too. He lobbed
there's
freeze there.
There's a lot of national medals from this year out there on the ice right now.
Makes it fun to watch from the booth.
Definitely does. If I'm counting correctly now, for medalists from men's and women's nationals, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, I believe, medalists.
You know, we missed an opportunity since it's first start of the Brier. You could have done your best Vic impression and count them up.
I got to drop my voice a little bit more to get there. Make the final.
See if we can work that into this game.
I don't want to get copyright infringement on TSN. Run in there by Nickel to lose those yellow stones. 2 reds do stay very close for 3rd count. Nice shot by Gabe. I think that rock stuck around there. Maybe not. Hopefully it doesn't come into play. I didn't get a good view, so I'm not sure. There's a little space between the guard and the stone that Richardson and Anderson are eyeballing right now to try to get an inside roll, but not enough to play a double.
We're looking at hitting the higher one first. It's on the out-turn side. Taylor's suggesting going the other way.
Yeah, both are options.
Yeah.
I think you're probably playing the one that's wide open with the score the way it is. If you roll in off of that stone, you're in really good position. You can only see maybe a little less than half from the hack of that rock that's counting. So, yeah, I think this is the correct call. Just playing out-turn, soft weight hit, try to get inside of that rollover.
I agree, and especially how the guards are staggered. They're not perfectly lined up. You have a little bit more room for error going on the out-turn side.
Ben Richardson with the out-turn pass. He's trying to hit maybe 2/3 on the inside with this weight. Looks like he needs to get up to get the roll. He'll just be on the nose, even roll out a little bit. So maybe an opportunity now for Gabe and Kirstin to get back in this game. A little hit and roll on this stone. One stone left for Anderson and Richardson. So with this roll too, Vince, not sure which of those stones in the back is closer, but could be a double and roll opportunity with soft weight and maybe bring even 4 into play.
Could. I think it's just going to, I don't know if they're looking at that yet. Could be the fortunate outcome if he gets this in the right spot.
Yeah, these are the ones where you want to look at and see what weight do we have to throw to make the double and roll, so that you don't consider it lucky if you get both. You figure out what weight gives you the best opportunity to get both. Right. Trying to get this to come up. Looks like it's going to roll a little bit. That's really well done. Great shot. Another little hop from Gabe.
Yeah, he's starting to get
fired up
in
here.
Stuff again. Here we go.
Took a couple ends to get going, but Nichols have shown up to play now. And a little bit of a dangerous shot too for Taylor Anderson. They can't really play anything with weight because if their shooter or if something they raised did stick around, if that yellow one is closer than the red in the back, it's still a wide open hit afterwards to make both of those count. So I think this may be just either a freeze to that number 1 counter or soft weight hit. I would expect a freeze because at least you're staying in the house and taking that back red out of play. That's what it looks like Taylor's playing here.
And I like this call. You're up 5-0. You don't need to get too greedy. Force, even a deuce is not the end of the world here. You can be up 3 with hammer and put yourself really in the driver's seat going into the fourth.
This looks like it's got to go though too, huh, Vince?
A little light. That's pounding as much as he can, but you got to at least try and get some out.
Boy, if that stops short, this is either a draw for 4 or hit for 4. They're going to take a look at this back stone.
You're going to play the hit.
Yeah, if you're not sure, you're doing it regardless.
You got to work sometimes under the assumption that you're not shot or that the opponent's rock is out counting the one you're curious about. And I think from that angle we just saw.
Yeah, it looks yellow.
Yeah, it looks yellow. Just a hit and stick here.
So contact for 3, stick around for 4 for Gabe and Kirstin Nickel. Get them right back in this game. Outturn pass, not much room for error on the roll. These are difficult shots, Vince, in a mixed doubles game.
Kind of a knee knocker putt when you're thinking you just have an open hit in doubles.
Really hurrying to hold this line. Still digging. Looks pretty good.
It's all right.
And we'll stick around. That is 4 for Nickel and Nickel. So as we mentioned, mixed doubles, here we go. After 3 ends of play, take the over. 5-4, Anderson and Richardson leading Nickel and Nickel.
Twin Cities Orthopedics is ready to go with more doctors, specialty services, and convenient urgent care locations. Ready, set, TCO.
Love those scoreboards. 2, 3, and 4 to start this game off. Beginning of the 4th end. Anderson and Richardson leading Nickel and Nickel 5-4. Tyler George and Vince Skebby in this extremely important draw for both of these teams. And Vince, you know, without playing any favorites in the least bit, obviously we're fans of all these teams. You like seeing both teams playing well and being in this game, and the 5-4 game after 3, when it looked pretty disastrous for the Nickel squad after 2 ends. Now all of a sudden, it just looks like a regular mixed doubles game.
A lot of offense early, but yeah, I mean, it's just what we said last time. No lead is safe. All it takes is a couple of misses going and a couple of bounces going your way, and you're back in it. 5 early is nothing to come back from, and it's exactly what we're seeing here.
For those not as familiar with mixed doubles, you may be looking at that scoreboard and thinking, how did they give up 4 points after being up 5-0? Well, it doesn't play the way that other curling does, men's and women's. It's very difficult to defend, as you can't take any stones out of play for the first 3 throws of each end. So everything plays into the forefoot with that center guard starting and a rock in the back of the forefoot. You really have no choice but to continue to play offense. So if you're not executing, there's still going to be a mess of rocks in play. That's where those 4s come from. We are looking at the other matchups for this all-important draw. Anderson-Stapera book out Wiesa on sheet C. 3-1 score there. Anderson-Stapera on top. Mulaney, Sinnott, Strauss, Casper on sheet D. Steal a 1 for Strauss and Casper. Has them up 3-2 after 3. And Podol, Perry, TC Dropkin on sheet E. 5-0 coming to the close of the 3rd end with another mess of yellow stones around that forefoot for Corey and Corey.
Looks like they're sitting at least 2 or 3 over there. Ann's got a tough shot there.
Gabe Nickel with a couple of beauties last end to jumpstart this rally for Team Nickel. And you can just feel that energy, the difference in how they feel about what they're doing. And that one gets down to the top 4. It's a pretty good spot. But the momentum changes everything. And you like to practice staying in the same mindset, same mentality, same energy level at the beginning of these games too. But it's hard not to get a little jump start from scoring a 4, making a few shots. The same way it's hard not to drag the heels a little bit when you give up a 2 and a 3 to start.
Oh, always. Your biggest opponent sometimes is just the one between your head or between your ears, pardon. You always want to make sure that you keep that same focus no matter what. It's the most important thing, because you still have to be able to control your body to make these shots. That's the way curling is. So it's really
Andrew Stapera's biggest opponent over there was speed of sound, how hard he threw that one. All 3 yellows go out of the house on that triple from Stapera. He's trying to come up with a witty thing for saying how hard he threw the stone. We had a little speed bump in the middle of the sentence. Maybe need to get back to my Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar here.
There we go. There's no speed bump on the ice with how hard he threw it. That stayed right on course.
That chips off a little on the freeze attempt, so at least a double available here for Gabe Nickel, possibly a triple. Might see a little fist pump or something from Gabe if he's able to make this one. But lined up pretty well to lose a whole bunch of yellow granite. Not playing it with a ton of weight. They want to stick around too, so less concerned with the triple as much as the double and stay. Still can clear all 3 with this weight though.
There's the guard. Just maybe overcurled a little bit on him.
A little on the narrow side, and not a terrible position. Is going to be a run back with a little drag if they need. I'm sure they'd be fine with a force of 1 point here in the 4th if it comes to it, to somehow only be down 2 with the hammer at the break after being down 5 after 2 ends would be a definite victory for Team Nickel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Vince.
I was just going to say, you're going into the 4th end break. If you can take that momentum, ride it high, you can come out swinging in the 5th end. And force is not a bad play. You get the hammer back. Last time you had hammer, you dropped a 4 on him. Force not a bad play.
Long discussion here on this shot, and Thinking about trying to move these red stones around maybe with back ring. I thought they might just throw out-turn draw to the back of the 4-foot and try to sit second and dare your opponent to try to freeze on that number 1 counter playing against a possible 2 or 3. But I think Ben's trying to move the red stones around. So you heard Taylor say if you touch the guard, it's okay. Trying to get this to turn over to bump those red stones.
Slowly but surely. Got it around it. Great shot by Ben there.
Definitely want to sweep this to take the double away too, but good result, good shot by Ben. It looks like they're sitting first, second, and fourth. Tough to tell on that back red stone.
Looks close. You did leave him a little bit. You left him a double, but still, you got primary objective, which was get some space, open things up, get those reds away from you.
The tough thing with the double, Vince, is if they do make it, if it sticks right there, it's likely that it'll be wide open. You'll still be able to bump and roll underneath and sit 2 again.
Right. You gotta be careful with how you're gonna throw that. I don't know if I would necessarily be a fan of that. So especially since we talked about the force really being an okay objective here.
Yeah, that initial call of freeze, I think, was probably the best shot. And thinking maybe, okay, we can clear 2 stones without hammering, getting a little nervous about giving up a bunch of points after coming back. But you can accomplish that with the freeze every bit as much.
Absolutely. Plus, you're minimizing the score zone.
Well, it doubles the back one, so not a terrible result, but opportunity now for Anderson and Richardson to maybe play that same freeze that we were talking about Nickel possibly playing.
Yeah, if you can get the freeze tight enough on your shot stone, you can dare your opponent to try and double, but if it's hanging out there, you're gonna just ask for him to throw the hit.
Another steal of 2 on sheet E for TC and Dropkin, now leading 7-0. Don't believe they can lock up the 1 seed without a loss by Strauss and Casper as well. Let me correct myself. With the head-to-head win over Strauss and Casper, that win for Dropkin and TC, I'm going to look for a nod from Jerry over here next to us. I believe that would lock up the number 1 seed based on head-to-head.
Sounds right.
I don't think I'm getting through to him.
A little shaky. He's considering it.
I'm pretty sure on that. We're not going to rubber stamp it, but I think that's the case. So that out-turn freeze, Richardson, plan looks really good here if he can get around, and the line's great. Boy, that's a really good shot.
Fantastic, right? Could not walk down the stone and place it any better.
And now you're seeing exactly where Nickel could have been if they make it that good. A difficult freeze, but that position's so important in this end. There is a run back, double run back double if they want to play it, but they can also try to just clip what they can see and take 1 stone out, make them draw for 2, down by 3, not a disaster.
I like that. If you could get a bump, make him throw the draw we saw. Actually, we saw that exact same shot that Richardson threw earlier this end. We could try something like that. And if you can get the line just right, you might have to force him to throw the side. No one's really thrown all in. So could be a good outcome if you can clip that yellow that they just threw.
We have gotten the affirmative thumbs up from Jerry Gertz. That's a win from TC and Dropkin will lock in the number 1 seed in this group and a bye in the playoffs. They would be joining Chris Plies and Vicky Persinger in that respect as the top 2 seeds securing the bye. Jerry, do we know which would be the 1 seed and which would be the 2 by virtue of both being undefeated if they did end up that way. And that's a head shake. We don't know. We'll do some research in between on that one.
I think it goes down to draw shot challenge, if I remember correctly.
Makes sense. Be the only tiebreaker they have.
Right.
So we'll go with that and just say that's absolutely 100% correct because Vince said it.
Oh boy. I don't know if I want to put my reputation on the line just yet. It's my first nationals. Let's go easy on me.
Yeah, but you could be right. You could go out on a limb and say, this is my call. And honestly, I can't think of any other way they decided, so it does make sense.
Like they've just got to get a piece of the button or a full 4-foot, pardon, for a 3.
Yep, full 4s here. Taylor looking for a little redemption from last end, coming up short on that draw. This one looks very close. Richardson likes the weight, sweeping on and off. Looks like it may just settle right in the tee line. Perfectly done that time from Taylor. Well, now hitting the brakes at the end. Wow, I thought the way Ben was sweeping that was locked in, and Ben a little frustrated with himself too. That was, can't throw it much better. Taylor's end of things, Ben would be the first to tell you. So it is just a 2. Score at the break. 7-4, Anderson Richardson leading over Nickel and Nickel. And the 4th end break is brought to you by Warm Room Hero, the intuitive curling club software that takes the stress out of schedules, registrations, and more. Warm Room Hero, a platform built for curlers by curlers. Check out Warm Room Hero at curling.club today. Again, that score at the break. Anderson Richardson, 7. Nickel and Nickel, 4.
Let's say you're in high school and there's a sport you like, but sometimes you think, you know, it might be cool to try a new sport.
Twin Cities Orthopedics is ready to go with more doctors, specialty services, and convenient urgent care locations. Ready, set, TCO.
Getting ready for the second half of this feature matchup. 2023 USA Curling Mixed Doubles National Championships. Tyler George and Vincent Skebby Esquire in the booth. Looking around the sheets at our other scores. Anderson Stapera leading 3-2 with Hammer going into the fifth end over Bookout and Wiesa. Mulaney and Sinnott with a 3-point end in what I believe is the fourth. The scoreboard is goofed up on that end, but yes, it was in the fourth end. So they lead 5-3 over Strauss and Casper. And again, TC and Dropkin with a 7-0 lead, and we're going to have another score for you there just in a second. Looks like a
one
steal of one for yellow.
Taking
Looking at it to make sure.
But,
Either 8-0 or 7-1. They may end up measuring that one.
no,
They are kicking them out,
they're
so
kicking 'em out.
we'll wait and see what they hang there. But in the meantime, tick shot on the corner guard right to the top of the forefoot by Taylor Anderson. Very well played.
Well done. Looks like it was a steal of one, just judging by how they're hanging the scores.
Yep. 8-0 it is for TC and Anderson, continuing to roll on. Appears by all accounts that they will lock up that all-important bye in the top seed from this group. With the power play here in the fifth end to play, again, great shot by Taylor Anderson to start off defending against the power play with the tick on the corner guard. Now Kirstin Nickel playing the out-turn draw. Looks like maybe they're trying to freeze on that rock in the top of the fours or go around it at the line they're at. Now trying to turn it over. Ends up just nestling next to it.
Not ideal for later, but they can still make that work. Can't hit it yet if you're Anderson Richardson.
This is the final stone in this end before rocks can be removed from play. Ben Richardson. Looks like they're going to try to lob a freeze down on that red stone on the side of the 12-foot biting the 8-foot. In-turn freeze for Ben.
This in the right spot. You're not going to get shot out of this, but what it is, you're setting yourself up that you're not going to give up a big end if you can make this freeze. They're a little hesitant to go, so they might think this is heavy out his hand.
Vince, watching Ben throw too, I've mentioned a bunch of times that with deliveries, they're all different, but you have artists and you have machines. The artists are the ones like myself that we're all over the map. We're just trying to figure out a way to make the shot. And then there's machines. Guys like John Schuster, who sees himself as more of an artist. I think he's more of a machine who beats that delivery. And Ben Richardson firmly in the machine category. Every single delivery looks identical from him coming out.
Machine he is, and would be remiss if I don't give the shout out to his former home club, my home club, Mayfield. I learned a lot from Ben when he was there. And he's
don't tell him
machine.
that. Don't give him
won't.
that now.
No, I won't yet.
It's recorded. There's nothing you can do about it. This is archived on YouTube.
I know that I learned from him. It's just going to be even better when I get to play against him next time.
Maybe I didn't learn from him.
I learned how to not beat him when we were played against him in Charlotte. How about that?
Still not helping your cause. You're just pumping him up.
And the machine, I don't know if it'll pump him up or not.
They are in the middle of the timeout here talking about how they want to approach this.
Using the timeout kind of early. Out of time already. Maybe not yet, but...
Yeah, they had the 1 minute of walking time for their non-existent coach. So you get a little extra time then. Still talking about how they want to approach this end. And really, Vince, it might be early to call it, but it's more likely that you're going to have a situation where you have to think about rock placement how you want to approach the end in the power play end than it is any other end you play. So I understand the call and the thought process on that timeout. You're playing a normal mixed doubles end with a center guard and a rock in the back and fours. There's not a whole lot of thinking you have to do most of the time with positioning. So this is the end where you might have to throw it anywhere in the house or a guard somewhere. Whereas 90% chance in a standard end, you're throwing something soft to the 4-foot circle. So even though it is early, I agree it's probably the proper situation to figure out exactly how you want to approach it.
It is fair. A lot of teams are hesitant to call it early just because when you get down to those last end or two when stakes starting to get really high, what can you do?
Yeah, and I think if they didn't have as much time as they have left, that would be as much of a factor. But they still have over 12 minutes left on their clock. Well, a little bit over half of what you start with, having played a good chunk of this end already. Take a look at our feature matchup for this 4 o'clock draw. Persinger Applies still undefeated at 6-0, taking on Ryman Smith, still battling for their playoff lives at 3-3. Persinger Applies once again will be the top seed out of that bracket with the bye regardless of the result. So one team desperately needs the game, the other just fine-tuning for the playoffs. Richardson playing the double here. Almost poking rock out the side. So actually ends up being a stopper with their own stone. And it's nickel and nickel sitting second and third. So maybe a 3-point end back in the works. A relatively, I wouldn't say straightforward double, I guess, on those rocks in the wing with the way they're staggered, but definitely is a double there.
Double's there. It's got to catch it pretty thin, though, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, or really thick with a lot of weight on the back one way or the other.
Right.
Only have to move that rock 1.5 feet. But it is in the outside ice where it might be a little bit frosty. Striking bands being as live as they are. That shot is a little more accessible here than it probably would be in your league play. People trying to get this to stick around here on this hit. Rolling to the outside would be a good thing too.
Just got on the nose though. Split house, not a bad thing.
Trying to decide what double they want to play now. Whichever one you play, you're going to have to throw pretty hard. Ben's probably thinking, boy, if I really zing this, maybe I could make the triple. It'd be pretty flat to come off the top of that other stone and get them both. So this is the one that he knows he can make pretty simple with just throwing a bunch of weight.
At this point, I think the mentality's just got to be, just make 2 red rocks disappear. Can't give up a big end if your opponent doesn't have the mini rocks in play. As obvious as a statement as that is.
So you can make this one of 2 ways. Either you hit as thin on that back one as you can without touching the redstone in the 12-foot, push it outside, or just barely redirect off of that rock in the side of the 12-foot and make the double that way. No sweeping necessary with this one. It's a little too thick, so only gets the 1. Decision time for Gabe and Kirstin. Trying to decide if they want to hit or freeze. I think this is probably a situation where you're hitting, Vince. This is Gabe's last stone of this end. And you want to sit 3 going to your opponent's last stone with hammer here. You play the freeze, you may not get a chance to make that outside rock count.
Yeah, I think
because your opponent's going to hit the number 1 counter on the other side. So
yeah,
you have to hit this rock.
I agree, and I was just going to say you gotta go for the hit here, make them look at 3, but also the split house is really, I think, your most important, because even if you have to settle for 2 here, the easiest way to do that is have the split house.
I'd really like to see him play this with kind of soft weight. They're throwing it harder. You played it soft with a deep roll, you could kind of make the doubles a lot more difficult too.
I feel like that's the Nichols game plan, particularly with Gabe, is he likes to throw heat. And if he's got the opportunity to throw a hit, and when he's on with his hits, they become a very tough team. But if he's missing those rolls, he's missing by those inches, throwing too much weight, it can cost him and get him in trouble. But that's the name of doubles.
Those are indeed the teams that we are watching out here. It's always good to see the glamour shots. That draw that you saw briefly up there will be our feature game for the evening. As Nickel and Nickel will be back on the broadcast against Stapera and Sarah Anderson in the late game. Double attempt from Taylor Anderson. Curls a little bit, but that rock still goes out the back, so a good shot by Taylor. Should be a open hit and stick for 2 for Gabe and Kirstin. So again, would like to roll that rock the opposite direction. I think they were attempting to, but ended up just a touch on the wide side and sets up a straightforward double for Taylor, which she executes well. Now Kirstin, you see with that broom, Vince playing considerably softer weight than Gabe was playing, just to try to stick around.
That's all you got to do here. You just got to hit this on the nose. You don't have to do anything crazy. But this is kind of sometimes one of the knee knocker hits in doubles.
Looks like maybe control weight here. Everything looks just fine right now.
It's pretty good.
That is perfectly done by Kirstin. Good shot. Right on the nose. So 2 it is for the Nichols. Get back to within 1 point once again after 5 ends of play. Score Anderson, Richardson 7, Nickel and Nickel 6.
The everyday person may not aspire to be a professional athlete or an Olympic athlete. You may just want to be the best person you can be. You just may want to sleep better. You may want to feel better. Thorne has many products that can support all of those things. So it's not just about performing or running faster or jumping higher. It's those little things that go into having a higher quality of life.
Beginning of the 6th end in this feature matchup, draw number 6 for Pool B. Anderson Richardson leading Nickel and Nickel 7-6. Power play in play for Ben and Taylor. Thanks to our friends at Floor Curl, USA Curling members, member clubs are entitled to a 20% discount on any Floor Curl inflatable rink set. These rinks only take a minute to inflate or deflate and are the perfect way to promote your club. At summer festivals, events, or anywhere you have a flat surface, no ice required. Visit usacurling.floorcurl.com. Use the promo code FCInflatable20. That's usacurling.floorcurl.com. Promo code FCInflatable20. Valid until March 12th. Center guard attempt from Gabe Nickel, playing for the steal in this power play end or the force. 3 ends to play, trailing by 1 right in this matchup. Taylor Anderson playing the in-turn draw, trying to come around. Definitely looked a little soft on the release out of hand.
Starting to move very nicely off that center line.
The line's just fine. Has to go for weight. See how far Taylor and Ben can carry this. We'll be on the paint. Maybe it's just the getting farther into the week and my brain lagging, but it looks like the rocks aren't carrying quite as much on the end. And, maybe I'm giving Ben an out on that sweep on Taylor's last in the fourth end, but same thing with that stone. It doesn't look like the glide is there at the end the way that it was early in the week.
Could be that. Could be the players. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. It could be just, you're playing game 6 of 7 in the week. You're starting to feel a smidge of fatigue. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, I think I was just more looking at the last 5 feet of the stones, like if you're sweeping or if you're not. They look like they're just not carrying as much at the end as they were before, and they're coming more to a natural halt that you'd see like on club ice or something like that.
Maybe. I think I noticed that they've been finishing a little bit harder as well, so it could be that they're taking a little bit more to the curl at the end of the throw.
Yeah, that stone, I thought that looked like that was going to get to the back 8 foot with that sweep and stops full force. Richardson playing the peel right away, opening things up.
Keeping it real simple when you're sitting second, third. But it's like Gabe's already calling for the hit.
But yeah, they're looking at the scoreboard and saying we're only down a point. We'd like to force if we can at worst. If we get an opportunity to steal, we'll take it. But there's not a great steal opportunity right now without throwing another guard. And with that rock in the back of the 4 foot, there's a lot of distance between the two.
They feel like they've got a line at this top one that was the first stone thrown. You can go for it. Yeah, they've got their options. Personally, I like just putting the guard back up. If you can make it, go for it.
It's the curl to stick around. Really don't want to roll out here.
There it goes.
Roll out. Yeah, if there's a tendency with this team, with Gabe's rocks in particular, they do tend to overthrow a little bit, worry a little less about sticking around, making sure that the shooter's in play. And in an end like this, where you're trying to steal or force, that shooter is every bit as important as the result of what you're hitting. So kind of cutting down your margin for error considerably when you throw that much weight on those shots.
It's got to be a fine-tuned release and slide. Sometimes, especially in that release that we see from Gabe, it'll hang out there, go out a little bit away. So you almost want to throw a little bit less weight than what you think, just so you can hope you can get a little bit of movement back.
Hit and roll all the way to the outside by Richardson, perfectly done. Splitting the house. Now really no choice but to freeze for nickel, and that is the one issue with playing that roll. They executed it perfectly, but rolling out of the 8 foot means that the freeze on this counter under the corner can be for shot rock. If that rock had stayed full in the 8 foot, this freeze would still be only for second count, so you'd basically have your 2 likely locked up. But that roll, not sure if they were trying to roll all the way to the outside 12s, but if they were, they may have forgotten that this freeze would essentially kill both of those stones.
Yeah, and this is going to be a must-make. Nice thing, right, is that because even though it's behind the tee, you're absolutely right. Back 8 is not a bad spot to be if you can get that roll. But they must have just been thinking, let's just keep these as far away and not give them any sniff at a double.
It's not going to curl to the line they're looking for, and the miss that we've seen so many times throughout this week, and again back in Denver, the same thing on Sean Olison's ice, which was formerly Dave Stavateg's ice. That deep miss on the inside-out draw ends up in the back of the 12-foot. Still sitting 2 for Anderson and Richardson. And Vince, now I think this is a spot where if you're content with 2, you throw this right in the open, even up with that rock that's on the tee line underneath the guard, which is where Ben's pointing. If you're trying to bury your opponent and get 3, then you're wrapping one under that corner guard. The issue with going under the corner is you could, if it's not placed correctly, leave a freeze still to get out of the end. Throwing it to the open here, there's a very large area, as long as it's at least even up, where you're almost assuredly getting a 2 no matter what you do. So, and a very likely 3 as well. So I think this is absolutely the right call on this shot. Just throwing it to the open, right to the side of the forefoot.
I like this call. You don't need to get too greedy when you're already sitting 2 like this. Taking 2, getting up 3 is a good spot. And if you can get a little bit of help here, you can get 3. Going up 4 with 2 to play is a really good spot to be with the power plays gone.
The key to getting 3 here is not leaving a double on this back stone. Now Ben reading that it's going deeper than they like, so trying to sweep it so there is no double, but there is a available one.
You're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, they do have the option to freeze. I know they're going to discuss that for sure. But what Gabe is saying, and rightfully so, is if you freeze staggered on the high side of this stone away from the center line, if they try to peel it out, it may jam on that side stone anyways. Not sure if it would be count or not, but you could force to 1 by putting in that spot regardless. So if you're thinking we have a chance to stay in this game, then freezing on that high side may be the shot.
I think that's absolutely the play. There's no need to get too greedy and try and hit a roll or go for a double. There's a lot more ways that shot can go wrong, but a good freeze. If you're feeling well with your draw weight, I think you play the freeze.
Talking about freezing to the number 2 and forcing them to take 2. The difference between these 2 shots is freezing on this number 2 counter is still, if made perfectly, giving your opponent a 2, you're going to be down by 3 with 2 ends to play. Freezing on the number 1 counter, there is a chance that you could force to 1 if it's placed correctly, or if you get a break with a miss, you could steal. There is no possibility of doing that by playing this freeze. So it's all about if you're going all or nothing, or if you're just trying to hang around, and how likely do you feel it is to come back from 3 points down with 2 ends to play?
And that's not insurmountable. They've proven that they can score crooked numbers with the hammer, with or without the power play this game. So patience is a virtue, and we'll see if it pays off for the Nichols here.
This is going to need to curl quite a long ways on the line it's starting out on, based on what we saw from Gabe Stone. Calling a hair heavy, too, if that's the case. It won't finish to that line, so they definitely need this to curl still.
Be very patient on the sweep, but
can't bounce on this line. Might go around it. Just touches and sits pretty much open. Taylor Anderson will have a hit for 4. Don't need to get particularly close to the guard to make it. You need to look at the jam on the back stone to make sure if it dead jams that it doesn't outcount that stone in the back 12s on the opposite side. I'm sure Ben is cognizant of that. Now taking a look both ways. Once again, 2-way microphones. You can hear everything we're saying.
That's right. You heard us talking about it. He's thinking about it. Even if they come a little bit across face, they can completely take that shot out. Or take the jam out, pardon.
Taylor Anderson's final stone of this 6th end. Looking to put the clamps down on this game. Boy, that looks like needs to get up a bunch starting out, depending on the weight. Really needs to curl to get to nose. Now it looks like it's getting there.
It's getting a lot better.
Should be just fine, I think.
There you go.
Catch is just
That'll
thin
do.
enough on that other one to not dead jam, and ends up being 4. So score after 6 ends now. Anderson, Richardson 11, Nickel and Nickel 6.
Just because you're not a professional athlete doesn't mean that you should accept less. The beauty about what Thorne does is our product quality is the same whether they're in the athletic line or whether they're just for the everyday person. Thorne has kept true to never compromising on quality, never compromising on efficacy, never compromising on safety for not only athletes but for everyone who would use their products.
Beginning of the 7th end means it's time to tell you one more time about Warm Room Hero. Vince, it's more than just software. It's run by curlers dedicated to building long-term relationships with your club. You're about to start a long-term relationship yourself coming up here, the permanent kind.
That's
Warm
right.
Room Hero provides continuous support to ensure your website exceeds your members' expectations. Check out Warm Room Hero today at curling.club for special event pricing. I hope that your marriage exceeds Harley's expectations too. I'm sure they're very high to start with, but you always want to shoot for the moon.
Always got to set the bar high.
We're taking a look now around the scoreboards for the other sheets. Big numbers being thrown up around on a bunch of these games. See over on sheet E, not to be a broken record, but steal of 2 for TC and Dropkin in that game. Now leading 10-0 over Podol and Perry. Really enjoyed time in the booth with Nate earlier in the week. Very good up here.
He's been my roommate for the week. We've all got the Airbnb together, and he's been fantastic. Unfortunately, we're on opposite draws.
Sheet D, 6-4 Melanian Synod over Strauss and Casper. That one with big implications for this pool. If Strauss and Casper get that second loss, things tighten up there. And over on sheet C, Anderson Stapera leading 7-2 over Bookout and Wiesa. Key game for Sarah and Andrew as well to get a win, and it's going to be a very interesting final round robin draw later this evening. And again, our feature game, 11-6, points aplenty. Anderson and Richardson leading over Nickel and Nickel. Both teams with a 4 in this game. 0 singles have been scored as of yet.
This is where it gets interesting in the game because you don't have the power plays. So now the game gets back to the center, which sometimes you're not always going to see big numbers. You're going to try and control the forefoot and keep the score zone at a minimum. But we have seen we saw a 4 in just your traditional end of mixed doubles earlier this game, so can't quite rule it out.
Now, Vince, you're a baseball guy, correct?
Yes.
So you'd say this game probably has the highest OPS of any of the games out there right now. I know Jerry will like that one too, big baseball guy.
Oh, yeah. This is a bullpen coach's worst nightmare of a game.
Where's the situational lefty here? Up by 5, 2 ends to go. Where's John Landsteiner when you need him? I can tell you where he's at. Sitting at home with his kid, hanging out.
Getting ready for Worlds, right?
Probably watching curling. Probably telling everybody what they're doing wrong. That's the great part about watching from the couch.
You miss 0%. You miss all of you make all of your shots fired in.
What do you think I enjoy so much about watching their games from up here? Nickel playing the out turn, trying to move this yellow stone. Possibly even tap their own if they can get tight to the guard, but it looks like they're just playing to the yellow.
Hit this in the right spot. You could be sitting. You're sitting 2, maybe 3, depending on where this comes to rest.
Nice tap there. It's sitting side by side. I like that position.
Great. Controlling the top of the forefoot, both sides of the center line. Right where you want to be.
This would be interesting. Ben looking at playing the peel, slashing the outside, seeing how many they can get moving, and where that first stone goes that they're planning on hitting. It'll be very interesting. This rock in the top of the forefoot on the overhead that's on the center line, very likely gone. But depending on how thick you hit the first stone, it may just jam on the back yellow in the 8-foot. Or if it catches thin enough, it might catch the other red first and then go into the yellow in the back 4s. With a 5-point lead, you're happy clearing things up as much as possible, but we'll see where Ben ends up here. Well, that is not what we expected to see. Well, that rock shot in the back of the 4s, but very accessible for the nickels with either of these red stones. I was thinking, yeah, this one straight back, probably their best one to play.
I like that. He just threw that line on his last shot. He can throw something very similar.
Yeah, the one thing with playing the initial one they called the red on the center line is you don't have to move your own back red one. If you tap the red on the left side of the center line from the overhead, then it's probably playing into jamming on your own red too and moving both of those stones. So this in-turn tap, they just want to move that back rock maybe out of the forefoot, so at least your back red out counts it.
You get a little bit of room for error because you got the nice pocket on this side. Just got to navigate it around the guard.
Looking at the scoreboard in the bottom. Oh, that does redirect, and maybe for the best. That's exactly the angle they wanted. A little bit of a break there, but I just now was looking at that little scoreboard in the bottom left. It says Nick, and Rick. Sounds like some TV show or some 70s sitcom.
Little Three's Company?
Somewhere, that's about right, yeah. Come and knock on our door. See, this is what happens when you get into your, 20th, 30th game of the week. You've already had coffee, Dr. Pepper, zero sugar. Brain starts going to some strange places, OPS and 70s sitcoms.
Better rest up. You still got a few more to go and then playoffs.
You know, if we threw a leisure suit on Ben with that hair parted over from there, he could absolutely be one of Jack Tripper's friends from Three's Company.
Oh, yeah. he could do he's got the John Ritter ready.
I'm glad you get those references. If I was just on my own here, that'd sound really strange. There's probably 6 or 7 people listening that think that's funny, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's a curling game going on, right?
Right.
Too bad.
Nope, we're going to make our references.
You got to listen to whatever we have to say. You can go to the non-commentated games if you like, but that's your only option. Ben Richardson throwing this, I believe is probably out-turn freeze. Maybe guarding on that line too.
It'll be in a setup shot if he makes the freeze.
Needs to turn over to get to the pocket. They don't want to bounce off on this line at all.
I want to give an opportunity to hit more in here.
Could be trouble here. Taps up, and now Red's sitting another one.
Not ideal.
This is a fascinating game. I'd really like to, now that we're talking about it, our Hollywood curling friends that do those great movie posters, they could superimpose Ben in on a Three's Company thing. Man, that'd be great.
I like
Just saying.
If you're listening, take notes. You got suggestions.
Matt and Jen, if there's any chance you're listening. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Gabe looking at these angles, trying to figure out how to make as many of these reds count as possible. Still 2 shots left, so you might use this as a setup shot. Boy, looking at this, Vince, that double maybe on those 2 yellows, you might lose your own red, but decent chance of making that back yellow extremely lonely. Now they're looking at maybe, I'm not sure if they're just tapping the red on the top of the forefoot up. I think if you do that, you want to tap it all the way to the back.
Yeah, you want to do that. The other thought is, if it hangs, you might be able to wrap around and just sit another one in the forefoot.
Well, that might be a better option right from the start. With the broom they had, I don't think they could have got around it, but they're going to take another look. Only 3 minutes to play for them. Timeout's already been used. You're really trying to get 4 minimum this end if you can. That's, steal a 1 in a mixed doubles game, not really that big a deal.
You can get a crooked number up here. Yeah, stealing 1 keeps you in it. Even steal a 2, little less likely, but still within the realm of possibility.
Those with the Three's Company theme song stuck in your head, like me now, you're welcome. Gabe trying to hold the line. This is really turning hard right now. Absolutely has to get by the guard at the very least. He does. Where is it going to end up now? Huh. All right.
4, but looks like it's still 1-2.
Looking at playing the double, a very dangerous double, if it ever over curls. But is there any way of giving up more than 2 if you guard?
You got options either way.
It looks like maybe you could hammer the red, 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 yellow, yellow on that side if you're nickel and nickel. Just come through that hole. The 3 reds on the left side might go into both yellows.
See that?
This is really interesting. You see Ben kind of smiling, looking at it too, trying to figure out what do we do right now with a 5-point lead and this mess of stones in the forefoot. Really, any other good options to move red stones around than this double that they're playing? This is the best result if you can make it, but you got to be careful not to open things up.
Give them a path to score.
Yeah, if you can move those back 2 yellows, and 2 of these reds may be gone afterwards. Final stone of this 7th end for Taylor Anderson. Trying to double off 2 of these red stones. Pop on the release there.
Hanging out.
Still pretty good, loses 2, but boy, I think they can walk this down and bump for 4 now.
Yeah. There it is.
Yeah, just as Gabe says, in-turn tap for 4. Why not?
Yeah.
At this point, why not? Yeah, with the distance between the guard and that rock on the button, this is absolutely there. So final stone of the 7th, in-turn tap for a possible 4. Kirstin nickel.
Don't need much weight to make this.
Yeah, this is already curling. I don't think they need it to curl.
Just got to make sure you're by the guard and it's there.
Is it going to be by? Yeah, it's by the guard.
There it is.
Is it by the one in the top 8s? Oh, just over curls.
Oh, man.
Will only be a single. Oh, so close to another 4-point end. Instead,
That
just
shakes.
1, and that's good enough. So our first single of the game will be the last score. Final score of this extremely entertaining game. Anderson and Richardson with a key win, 11-7 over nickel and nickel. See Gabe shaking hands with Coach Wayne Anderson there as well. So for our other scores around the horn, did see Anderson and Stapera with the victory 8-2 over Bookout and Wiesa. They get their victory as well. Mulaney and Sinnott leading Strauss and Casper 6-5 in the 8th end. Mulaney and Sinnott up 1 with hammer. And as we mentioned, earlier. There was a score of 2 to finish that game off. So TC and Dropkin, the 10-2 victory and the 1 seed for the playoff round out of their bracket over Port Allen Perry. See what happens with the finish of that Strauss, Casper, and Mulaney Senate game. That would be extremely important for the standings. But for our feature game, Vince, again, thanks for joining. Good luck in the evening draw tonight. Be keeping an eye on that one. There we are, up in the booth.
All right. Well, thanks for having me again, Tyler. 2 entertaining games you helped me get to sit up here and help you with, so that's always fun.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun to watch. Points flying everywhere. And we will be back 4 o'clock today. Our feature matchup will be, drum roll, we're going to let Jerry put the graphic up on this. No, we won't.
Maybe not. It's a surprise.
The feature will be Persinger Implies versus, I'm checking to make sure I have it right before I say it, Persinger Implies versus Ryman Smith at 4 o'clock today. So we will see you back here at 4 for Tyler George, Vince Skebby, Jack Tripper, and everyone else involved with Curling Stadium. We'll see you at 4 o'clock. Thank you.